Online game, I possess a monster merging simulator. Chapter 281, Players Gone Crazy. Ding! Congratulations on successfully leveling your pet small artillery to level 31. Ding! Congratulations on successfully leveling your pet small artillery to level 32. Ding! Congratulations on successfully leveling your pet small artillery to level 33. 3 consecutive golden lights poured down on small artillery. Its level had reached level 33. This level could effectively increase the single damage output of small artillery. However, it also depleted Aisha's experience gain for the past 10 minutes. Yes, in just 10 minutes, Aisha had gained nearly 5 million experience points. This income was unimaginable when killing monsters in the wilderness. The only pity was that there were too few monsters. Aisha killed too quickly. In 10 minutes, she had killed thousands of monsters. Almost wherever she went, the concentration of monsters decreased greatly. At this speed, in about an hour, the monsters under the city wall would be completely wiped out. The players on the city wall were also snatching monsters crazily. Under the barrage of mages and archers, countless monsters died. However, melee players like Super Rich and Twinkle Rose found it a little difficult to deal with in this battle. Although they could also use longbows, they would not receive the attributes of the longbow since they were not archers. Therefore, their damage output was very limited, and they could not compete with those long-range players. In the middle of the city wall, there was a mage team. They were farming monsters very quickly. After clearing the monsters in their defense line, they actually began to snatch the monsters on the surrounding defense line. Under such crazy damage, golden light descended from many of the players' bodies, and their levels increased. Lorne did not care about their gains. After all, compared to him, these players were nothing. I'm so jealous that they can fight on the city wall. On the landing platform in the cold, desolate Dragon City, the eyes of the players watching the battle had already turned red. They all thought that this was a battle of life and death, but who knew that the entire battle would be so simple? Not only were these monsters unable to attack the players, but they were even unable to break through the city wall's defense. It was simply illogical. I'm so jealous. This battle was too easy. They were just picking up experience. Damn, I'm short-sighted. If not for my heart aching for that gold coin, I would not have missed such a good opportunity to earn experience points. Damn, I thought this battle would be very difficult, so I did not participate. Who knew that it would be so easy? Tyrant, I'll pay 2 gold coins. Can you let me register now? The players watching spat out blood. When they first saw the registration fee of 1 gold coin, they all scoffed. But now, they could only stand here and watch others stand on the city wall and easily raise their levels. Was there anything more painful than this in this world? The crowd regretted it. Under their watch, time passed little by little. Under the crazy attacks of the players, the monsters under the northwest wall had completely lost their huge size. Now, all that was left was a large amount of gold coins and loot on the ground. The light from the equipment turned the ground under the city wall into a river of light, dazzling everyone. Countless players rushed to the city gate, wanting to walk out of the city and pick up the loot. But no matter how they shouted, the city gate was still closed. This made the players anxious, because the loot in Divine Realm would only exist for a period of time. When no one picked it up for a long time, the loot would automatically disappear. This was definitely not a scene they wanted to see. Damn it, I can't sleep for a month with so many equipment uncollected. Forget it. Even if I fall to my death today, I will take away a few pieces of equipment. The players on the city wall could not help but jump down. His idea was simple. He wanted to collect the equipment on the ground before he fell to his death. But just as he was about to complete his expectations, a notification appeared. Ding! Congratulations on picking up Fearless War Sword, Silver Grade. According to the event rules, the loot will belong to the cold desolate dragon city. Ding! All the loot from this event has been directly tied to the ownership of the cold desolate dragon city. As you are the event participant, you can find the city lord of the cold desolate dragon city, Tyrant, and request to pick up loot for yourself. Damn! The player cursed and exploded like a watermelon. On the other side, after seeing the countless loot under the city wall, the surrounding players could not help but laugh. They all arrived at the teleportation array and prepared to use it to teleport themselves to the wilderness. Then, they would run to the city wall of the cold desolate dragon city and pick up the loot on the ground. Especially when they realized that there were countless silver equipment under the city wall, they were even crazier. A good silver-grade equipment could still be worth thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars. Under this city wall, there were hundreds of silver-grade items and thousands of bronze-grade items. As long as one could pick up a few pieces of equipment, he might have a year's worth of living expenses. To ordinary players, this was a temptation that could not be rejected. Therefore, they all disappeared from the teleportation array and rushed to the city wall of the cold desolate dragon city from all directions to pick up the loot on the ground. Then, everyone received rows of system notifications. Ding! Congratulations on picking up 10 silver coins. According to the event binding rules, the loot will belong to cold desolate dragon city. Ding! Congratulations on picking up Black Shield. According to the event rules, the loot will belong to cold desolate dragon city. Ding! Ding! Seeing the notification in front of them, the players went berserk. At this moment, there was a rumble behind him. The ground began to tremble. The mountain giant king led the final monster army towards cold desolate dragon city. The players under the city wall were so frightened that their scalps turned numb. They quickly took out the return scroll from Iron Skull City, but realized that it could not be used for the time being. Helpless, the players could only take out the return scroll from the cold desolate dragon city, but they received another notification. Ding! Cold desolate dragon city is in an emergency state. The teleportation magic circle has been tightly sealed. If you want to use it, you need to spend 1 gold coin to unlock it. Pfft! The players outside the city spat out blood. This tyrant was too inhumane. Chapter 282, Mountain Giant. Roar! The distant mountain giant king let out a loud roar. In the next moment, the surrounding mountains trembled. It was not because of the mountain giant king's actions, but because the mountains were all alive. They stretched their bodies like smaller mountain giants. Standing on the city wall, their figures could be seen clearly. The mountain giants were about 20 meters tall, half as tall as the mountain giant king. However, compared to the players, such a size was definitely huge. The mountain giants rushed towards the cold desolate dragon city. Compared to the slow speed of the mountain giant king, the mountain giants were even faster. They quickly arrived near the city wall of the cold desolate dragon city. Due to the bonus of the event, the range of the identification skill was greatly increased. However, as they stood on the city wall, they had already obtained the boss attributes panel. Mountain Giant. Grade, Boss. Level, 45. HP, 800,000/800,000. Physical attack, 2400 to 3100. Defense, 4500. Skill, Toss, Flying Rocks and Sand, Landslide, Rock Body. Introduction: the mountain giants are a race with the bloodline of the ancient gods. They are huge and have an affinity with the ground, giving them powerful strength and tough physiques. Do not anger them. The anger of the mountain giants is extremely terrifying. Although it was an ordinary boss, the mountain giant was much stronger than most silver bosses. Especially defense. With a defense of 4,500 points and the addition of the rock body skill to increase its defense by 35%, the mountain giant's overall defense had already exceeded 6,075 points. This number was a defense value that even the top players could not break through. When the players saw this panel, they revealed bitter expressions. This was the first time they had encountered an ordinary boss that was so difficult to deal with. It had not been so difficult when they hunted silver bosses in the past. Forget it, they could not care less. The players on the city wall shook their heads. This monster was no longer something they could deal with. An opponent of this level had to be dealt with by Tyrant. As players, they could just stand on the city wall and kill ordinary monsters. While the players were thinking, the mountain giants suddenly did a very strange thing. They stopped about 500 yards away, then reached out and grabbed the relatively large monsters like the demonized ape beside them, throwing them at the top of the city wall. Pfft! The body of the demonized giant ape slammed into the city wall. Many players were hit by such an attack and died on the spot. Although the mountain giant's attack panel was not outstanding, the damage dealt by throwing such a huge demonized ape a few hundred meters away could not be measured by the attack panel. Gosh! These mountain giants are so savage. The players on the city wall were stunned by such an attack. They moved towards the fortress on the city wall. At this moment, another bad news came. It turned out that not only would the mountain giants use the monsters as cannonballs, but they would also throw soldiers, causing the monsters that could not reach the city wall to reach the 70-meter-high city wall. Sisters, don't fight. Hide in the fortress on the wall first. Use your bows and arrows to deal with the monsters that are thrown up first. Twinkle Rose immediately commanded the people to distribute them properly. The other guilds also moved. Due to the fact that the mountain giant's throw was too powerful, the players could not stop it. Therefore, they could only hide in the defense and wait for an opportunity to counterattack. Fortunately, there were many defensive buildings on the city wall. The players could rely on these buildings to hide. When they realized that they could not directly kill the guards on the city wall, the mountain giants immediately locked their gazes on the players gathered on the landing stage. Although they were a few hundred meters away from the city wall, the mountain giants' arms were too terrifying. When they really threw with all their strength, the few hundred meters of distance could not stop their attacks. One by one, the gluttonous ghosts were thrown into the city by the mountain giant like seeds. Many of the monsters hit their targets and killed a large number of players on the landing stage. The remaining players were in a mess and began to flee in panic. Many players pushed each other and accidentally fell, turning into mush. In addition, there were some luckier gluttonous ghosts who survived after falling from the sky. They held their sharp claws and limped into the building, beginning to cause trouble in the city. As long as the city wall is not destroyed, nothing will be a problem. Lorne stood on the city wall and calmly looked at everything that was happening. Although there were many monsters thrown in, there were more players in the city. It was not a problem to clear the monsters. The most troublesome thing was to deal with these unrestrained mountain giants. He could not let them keep throwing. Otherwise, if the battle dragged on, the northwest city wall might still be able to defend, but the northeast city wall was very likely to be problematic under the assault of the Octopus Sea demons. In fact, there was already a problem in the northeastern city. In the army of the Octopus Sea demon leader, there were many monsters with suction tentacles. Although the city walls of cold desolate Dragon City were hard, it was completely possible for the other party to directly climb up. Especially the players there, their quality was worse than that on the northwestern city wall. In the past half an hour, a large number of monsters had rushed into the city and destroyed some buildings that had just been built. Fortunately, the basic buildings of the cold desolate Dragon City were relatively stable. Those huge buildings that were originally in the city could still ensure that they were intact when facing the attacks of the lake monsters. As for the ordinary buildings that had been destroyed, Lorne could accept such a loss. It was only a loss of some gold coins, and it was not a heavy blow to cold desolate Dragon City. In short, as long as the main buildings of the cold desolate Dragon City was not threatened, Lorne could accept these results. Aisha, deal with the monsters under the city wall first. Lorne was in no hurry. He commanded Aisha to first clear the monsters under the city wall. Only then could he bring Aisha out of the city and go a kilometer away to kill the insolent mountain giants. Chapter 283, Spirit Fruit. -113,400, critical. -112,400, critical. -113,100, critical. -115,300, critical. Aisha jumped under the city wall and used the dagger in her hand to kill the monster in front of her crazily. Almost every slash dealt high damage. This was Aisha's talent as an assassin. After killing any target, her next attack would definitely have a critical hit effect. In just 10 minutes, most of the monsters were killed. Aisha, let's kill those mountain giants. With that, a pair of angel wings immediately appeared on Lorne's back, and he jumped down. Under the gaze of the global audience, he transformed into a holy angel and glided down until he entered the forest. These mountain giants were also intelligent. They knew to stay away from the city wall and cast long-range attacks from a few hundred meters away. This could definitely ensure that they were not harmed by the guards in the city. Unfortunately, they clearly did not know who they had provoked today. Soon, Lorne arrived near a mountain giant. Phantom stealth. Aisha directly raised her dagger to face the enemy. The moon-white hexagram formation flashed on the sharp dagger, then turned into a stream that quickly stabbed into the boss. Surprisingly, there was an extremely hard rock layer outside the skin of the mountain giants. When attacked, this layer of defense would offset a large portion of the damage. Especially when the level suppression effect was more obvious, such damage reduction ability was especially outstanding. Even Aisha did not see the crazy scene when she killed the small monsters after dealing damage several times. Instead, a series of normal attack damage that did not even exceed 10,000 appeared. -52,050, critical. -5,925. -5,913. -5,999. -5,947. The first strike was a critical hit effect after exiting invisibility, but the damage was still not that terrifying. It only dealt 52,000 damage. The subsequent basic attack only dealt about 6,000 damage to the mountain giant, which was a rare phenomenon under Aisha's sharp blades. Seeing this, Lorne could not help but raise the ice crystal unicorn staff and use a support skill on Aisha. Cooperative Strike. This orange skill had a very powerful skill effect, which was to add the owner's attack attributes to the pet, allowing the pet to deal the highest damage in an instant. Aisha also instantly used the Phantom Combo Plus skill. This skill could not produce a critical hit effect, but it could be effective at the same time as an amplification skill. It was the perfect combination with the Cooperative Strike skill. Clang! 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 Cold blades stabbed ruthlessly into the boss, and continuous metallic sounds could be heard. It had to be said that Aisha's attack was really fierce. In just 1.5 seconds, she dealt the most powerful 10 consecutive hits. -12,501. -12,501. -12,501. -12,501. -12,501. -12,501. 10 high damage values appeared, and the total damage instantly reached 120,000 points. Coupled with the previous damage, in just a few seconds, Aisha dealt nearly 200,000 damage to the target. Even a tanky boss like the mountain giant could not withstand such a ferocious attack. Crack! After suffering such huge damage in an instant, the mountain giant's rock feet collapsed. Like a landslide in a mountain, a large amount of soil and rocks fell. Roar! The mountain giant was in pain. As the boss with the best defense attributes, it had not encountered such a ferocious attack before. It had even shattered its external defense. This made the mountain giant extremely angry. It raised its forelimbs. Under the guidance of the magic power, the soil and rocks formed a huge fist that bombarded Aisha's head. Boom! An earth-shattering punch landed, causing the surrounding forest to tremble. However, this was useless. Before the stone fist landed, Aisha had already used the skill Phantom Blink to escape the attack range of 15 yards. Her silver and sparkling Death Angel boots stepped lightly on the rocks. Although there were still rocks falling from above, Aisha easily dodged them. In order to reduce the range of the mountain giant, she had deliberately kept the distance between the two sides within 30 yards. This distance could keep her out of the range of the boss punches to the greatest extent, and it could allow her to attack at any time. Of course, this was also dangerous. Being too close to the enemy would result in frequent collisions with the other party. A moment of carelessness would result in death. However, Aisha now had 150,000 health points, so she did not have to worry about this. Even standing on the spot and fighting the boss was not a problem. After all, she still had 3,300 defense points. The mountain giant's damage output was really not enough to threaten Aisha's health. However, Aisha had higher expectations of herself. Under the circumstances that she could use skills to dodge, she would definitely not let herself be harmed at all. This was the pride of a top assassin. Minus 53,870, critical. Minus 5,945. Minus 5,961. Minus 12,407. Minus 12,407. Minus 12,407. The cooldown time of Aisha's skills was very short, especially the damage output skills. They were all about 10 seconds, and only the combo skill had a cooldown of more than 20 seconds. However, this did not affect her damage output. While waiting for the skill to cooldown, Aisha had already dealt high damage. The moment the skill cooldown was over, she immediately used her skill. Lorne cooperated with her combo and used the cooperative strike skill. In just 1 minute, the mountain giant with 800,000 HP fell to the ground with a bang. Its huge body gradually turned into a small hill. Swish! When the boss was lost, a large pile of loot dropped on the ground. Unfortunately, this was only an ordinary boss. Due to its quality, the equipment dropped in the end was very limited. The highest equipment was only silver grade and the probability was very low. But as Lorne thought otherwise, he saw a few fruits that glowed blue. The boss can drop fruits. Lorne was surprised. Such loot was very rare. At the very least, he had never seen one in so many battles. Spirit fruit. Grade, rare. Effect, increases spirit by 1 after consumption. Unlimited use. Introduction, a fruit with pure energy. After consuming it, you will absorb the energy within. Seeing this introduction, Lorne praised it. To the players, attributes were part of their permanent strength. It was not like equipment that needed to be changed, so its value was very high. This was also one of the main reasons why many people valued the first clear of the dungeon. Although the fruit in front of him could only increase 1 attribute per fruit, the important thing was that there was no quantity restriction on consuming this fruit. As long as one had the ability to obtain more, their strength would constantly increase. This was an incredible treasure in the game. Chapter 284, Mountain Giant King. I can't believe this is a player city. In the direction of the Silver Snow Guild, the beautiful ladies all revealed looks of disbelief. Although they were confident in Tyrant, who would have thought that this temporarily repaired city would have such powerful defense? Under the protection of such a sturdy city wall, even without the help of players like them, they believed that Tyrant alone had the strength to clean up all the monsters. Of course, doing that would delay the development of the cold desolate dragon city. Compared to these experience points, the construction of the cold desolate dragon city was clearly more valuable. Alright sisters, Do your best to kill the monsters. In the future, our city will also be so grand. Under the command of Twinkle Rose, the Sisters of the Silver Snow Guild walked out of the defense fortress on the city wall and began to attack the monsters below. The others followed suit. On this city wall that even the mountain giant could not break through, there was no need for them to worry about anything else. Now, they only needed to stand on the city wall to obtain unclear experience points. As for the mountain giants, the players tactfully ignored them. It was not because they looked down on ordinary bosses, but because they knew that their attacks could not deal any effective damage to the mountain giant, so they simply did not pay attention to it lest it affected the speed at which they earned experience points. Boom! 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 At this moment, the mountain giants under the city wall did not give up. They waved their fists and began to bombard the tall city wall like a storm. Their attacks were like beating drums. The dull sound and the trembling made one feel inexplicably nervous. However, reality was so magical. No matter what method the mountain giants used, no matter how much strength they used, they could not break through the city wall. To be honest, their current attack method was not even as obvious as when they threw the monsters. Don't worry. These monsters can't shake the cold, desolate dragon city. Lorne rushed back with Aisha. Against these monsters, he did not have any additional tactics. He directly let Aisha rush forward with her 2 daggers. Aisha's agile figure quickly moved around the mountain giant, and the sharp blade in her hand quickly slashed across, dealing extremely terrifying damage to the boss. Perhaps because the mountain giant was too unlucky, it was struck several times. Therefore, it fell to the ground after less than half a minute. Like the 2 mountain giants, in a pile of worthless loot, Lorne found a pile of pleasant fruits. This boss was not very lucky, but when it dropped the loot, it was not just generous. Previously, the mountain giant had only dropped about 10 items, but this mountain giant had actually dropped 27. Lorne quickly put the fruits away and turned to the other mountain giant. There were still 5 mountain giants at the scene. If each of them could drop 20 fruits, then they would directly obtain 100 free attribute points. This was even comparable to the benefits of an event dungeon. My god, this pet is too awesome. Please give me an army of such beautiful pets that can fight. What happened just now? She actually depleted a quarter of the boss health in an instant. Are we really playing the same game as Tyrant? Brother, stop dreaming. We're just workers in the game. He's the overlord of the game world. It's different. I'm kneeling. Mom asked me why I was kneeling and watching the live stream. I smiled but said nothing. When they saw the battle between Aisha and the mountain giant, the players were already numb. They had been too shocked since the beginning of the battle. Now that they saw less than 10,000 damage, they actually felt that this did not make sense. Ding! Your pet Aisha has killed the monster mountain giant. Ding! Your pet Aisha has killed the monster mountain giant. Ding! Ding! A few minutes later, all the mountain giants fell to Aisha's sharp blades. There were a total of 8 mountain giants that appeared this time, and all of them were ordinary bosses. Moreover, when they were killed, a pile of glowing fruits dropped. Unfortunately, the mountain giant behind did not drop too many fruits, most of them around 10, so in the end, Lorne only obtained 105 of them. From the total data, the final result was very good. After all, the total number still exceeded 100. Without hesitation, Lorne picked up the fruit and ate it. Ding! Your spirit +1. Ding! Your intelligence +1. Ding! Ding! A series of notifications sounded, and Lorne's spiritual attributes increased significantly. Almost half of the fruits dropped this time were spirit fruits, which was also very important to him as a summoner. Unfortunately, he had not reached class 2 yet. Currently, Lorne's spirit attribute growth was 1/15, which meant that 1 spirit point gave 15 MP. This time, he obtained a total of 55 spirit fruits, which was equivalent to 825 MP for Lorne. The effect was very good. Among the remaining fruits, intelligence and strength made up the majority. They gave Lorne 18 intelligence, 15 strength, 10 constitution, and 7 agility. In short, it was not bad. After all, these permanent stats could accompany him forever. In addition, Lorne had another idea. Would he be able to materialize his attributes in reality the next time he conjured them? If this idea was realized, then other than the enhancement of equipment, his attributes were critical. Let's take it slow. I hope that when I complete the second chapter of Divine Radiance, I can materialize again, and it would be best if I could materialize my physical strength. This way, I can gradually master the power of the game in reality. Lorne thought. At this moment, in the distant mountain range, the even larger mountain giant king began to move. It moved its thick limbs and walked straight in the direction of the cold, desolate dragon city. On the way, its appearance began to change a little. From its original 4 limbs on the ground, it gradually became 2 legs on the ground. When it completely stood up, it was actually 80 meters tall. This height was even higher than the city wall of cold, desolate Dragon City. This mountain giant king was 4 times the height of the mountain giant and was even larger. Its arrival made even Lorne, who was very confident in the cold, desolate Dragon City, feel doubt. As for the other players, their eyes widened. They wanted to see who was stronger between the mountain giant king and the cold, desolate Dragon City. However, to everyone's surprise, when this huge creature arrived near the city wall, it did not directly attack. Instead, it looked at the players on the cold, desolate Dragon City with its huge eyes and let out a deafening sound. Chapter 285, High Defense. Puny humans, how dare you offend the great mountain giants? The mountain giant king let out a low rumble. The players on the city wall covered their ears. Many were even forced back by such an aura. It was too terrifying. This was a huge monster as high as 80 meters. Only level 30 players could not face such a huge creature. Everyone retreated, not daring to get too close to the boss. Seeing this scene, the mountain giant king was even more greedy. Its eyes widened as it glared at everyone. You lowly creatures, listen up. This is the territory of the mountain giant king, Demipkos. All of you are abominable intruders. I want to crush your bodies and trample your city. The mountain giant king let out an angry roar. With that, it immediately raised its right hand. It was an incomparably huge fist. When it descended from the sky, it was like a huge meteor. In an instant, the huge fist landed on the city wall. Boom! An incomparably huge impact swept through the entire city wall. Everyone could clearly feel the power transmitted from the bottom of their feet. The terrifying explosion also made everyone's eardrums tremble. It was as if they were standing in the center of a bomb, and their minds were filled with a loud bang. However, a very dramatic scene appeared. -0. A number floated on the city wall. Perhaps the players on the city wall were still affected by the commotion. However, the players watching the live stream saw this number. They were all silent as if they had died. Then, when they recovered, the entire scene exploded. The entire live stream's comments went crazy. Pfft, I'm sorry. I can't. Ha ha ha, -0, wow. Wow, what's going on? This city wall is too ridiculous. Even if the mountain giant king can't destroy the entire city wall, it shouldn't be unable to cause any damage, right? Looks like Tyrant not only cheated himself, but this city is also using a cheat. I can't understand this game anymore. Lorne was speechless. Originally, he wanted to see the limit of the defense of the cold, desolate Dragon City, but who knew that this huge boss in front of him could not cause any damage to the city wall. When this phenomenon occurred, even Lorne wondered if there was a problem with the system data. After all, the mountain giant king was a little terrifying in size. It was 80 meters tall. Among all the monsters he had encountered so far, it was definitely the largest apart from the dragon god. Moreover, it was a mountain giant with the bloodline of the ancient gods. It was extremely powerful. However, who would have thought that such a powerful boss would not be able to harm cold desolate Dragon City at all? This was beyond common sense. However, Lorne knew very well that he was not cheating. The fundamental reason for all of this was that the strength of the cold desolate Dragon City had played a role. Perhaps this was why the Dragon City was so powerful. Looks like you're also not as strong as you seem, O Mountain Giant King. Lorne activated his angel's wings and flew into the air. Demipkos, I'll give you a chance now. If you agree, I can consider letting you live. How about it? In Divine Realm, NPCs could be commanded by players, just like Tully and Doge. As long as one showed enough strength or had enough benefits, they would listen to the player. Similarly, monsters could be subdued. In fact, a boss-level monster was a special NPC. In this highly free virtual game, any high-level life form had their own consciousness, and the boss was the basic requirement to reach high-level life forms. Therefore, there was actually a chance to rope in a big boss like the Mountain Giant King. Of course, it was harder to rope in monsters than NPCs. After all, there was a huge difference between the intelligence of monsters and faction NPCs. Now, it was up to the big guy to see if the conditions that Lorne offered were accepted. Spare me. The Mountain Giant King seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world. It trembled and finally teased, "Let me hear what kind of opportunity you're giving me. As long as you agree to become the ornamental rock of the cold desolate Dragon City, I can spare your life. If you perform well, I can even allow you to join the city." Ornamental, rock. The Mountain Giant King was so angry that its entire body was trembling. As a mountain giant, it usually liked to walk around, so it would often merge with the mountain. However, this did not mean that it was going to become a piece of decoration for the humans to enjoy, especially with the term ornamental rock. It was simply insulting its dignity as a mountain giant king. Die! Human! Rumble! Without any room for negotiation, the furious mountain giant king waved its fist, which was as large as a mountain, and charged at Lorne with monstrous strength. But before the two sides could make contact, Lorne had already used Blink to return to the city wall. The person who replaced him was Aisha, who had been waiting. Carrying two cold daggers, she charged at the mountain giant king. Although this boss was huge, Aisha was not afraid. The daggers in her hands danced as she quickly slashed across the mountain giant king's body. -981. -963. -975. Aisha tentatively attacked a few times, but found that the damage was reduced to 3 digits. This is ridiculous. Only 900 damage. Lorne frowned. When she fought the mountain giant previously, Aisha's attack could still reach about 6,000 points, but now, she did not even have 1,000 points. This was too abnormal. Unfortunately, he did not have a powerful defense penetration skill. He did not know how long it would take to fight this boss with high health. But there was no choice. He could only fight with Aisha. Lorne had an auxiliary skill that could increase his damage output. It would be very important in the following battle. The moment he jumped off the city wall, Lorne extended his hand and summoned the attributes panel of the huge monster in front of him. When he saw its attributes, he finally understood why Aisha could only deal so little damage. Chapter 286, Death by a Sharp Blade. Mountain Giant King. Grade, Silver Boss. Level, 46. HP, 1.88 million/1.88 million. Attack, 4200 to 5000. Defense, 5500. Skill, Toss, Flying Rocks and Sand, Landslide, Rock Body. Introduction, the mountain giants are a race with the bloodline of the ancient gods. They are huge and have an affinity with the ground, giving them powerful strength and tough physiques. Do not anger them. The anger of the mountain giants is extremely terrifying. This was a level 46 silver boss. Firstly, in terms of level, it could suppress Aisha by 16 levels. This could allow it to receive an additional 60% damage reduction. Then, it had attributes as high as 1,880,000 HP. It was the boss with the highest health points that Lorne had encountered after playing the game for so long. There was no need to pay attention to the attack. Its slow movements made it too difficult to harm Aisha. In contrast, Lorne was more concerned about its defense. Who would have thought that the defense of this mountain giant king's interface had reached an astonishing 5,500 points? Coupled with the additional defense and the hidden increase in the level suppression effect, the defense of this huge guy was at least 10,000 points. Moreover, it had a portion of the damage immunity ability. Combined, the damage of Aisha was basically reduced to almost nothing. No wonder she only dealt 900 damage. But that alone can't save your life. The corners of Lorne's mouth curled up, and he opened Aisha's attributes panel. When hunting ordinary monsters, Lorne had specially left behind experience points and was in no hurry to use them. Then, he killed 8 mountain giants, which gave him a lot of experience. Now was the time to use these experience points. Swish! A golden light fell on Aisha. A voice sounded in Lorne's ear. Ding! Congratulations to your pet, Aisha, for successfully reaching level 31. Ding! Congratulations to your pet, Aisha, for successfully reaching level 32. Although it had only increased by 2 levels, the effect was extraordinary. Aisha was now level 32, 14 levels behind the mountain giant king. This meant that the level suppression effect between the two sides was only 40%. Reducing the damage by 20% was a huge increase for Aisha. Slash! Before the light dissipated, Aisha had already attacked. Her sharp dagger drew a beautiful arc in the air, and Lorne saw the opportunity to buff her. Instantly, saber light splattered everywhere. Minus 67,000, critical. Minus 4,723. Minus 63,100, critical. Minus 6,315. Minus 6,315. Minus 6,315. The critical strike effect brought about by Traceless Phantom and the critical strike effect triggered during ordinary attacks dealt 130,000 damage. This was the damage Aisha dealt to the Mountain Giant King after the 20% damage reduction. This effect was even better than when facing the Mountain Giant, and the damage output was much higher. The following Phantom Combo Plus skill was lucky and made 9 consecutive hits, dealing nearly 60,000 damage. Therefore, with that simple outburst, the boss lost nearly 200,000 health points. Super Frequency Release. Without giving the boss a chance to recover, Lorne activated the orange skill he had not used. This skill could directly refresh a pet's skill cooldown, which was the greatest help to Aisha. Traceless Phantom. Aisha used this skill that could definitely deal critical damage again. Although the effect of Phantom Combo was also very good, it relied too much on probability. Moreover, without Lorne sharing the attack power, it was difficult to deal the greatest damage. Therefore, she chose critical hit. Her dagger struck the Mountain Giant King at an extremely fast speed, dealing an astonishing 70,000 damage. When the Mountain Giant King was about to counterattack, Aisha immediately used Phantom Blink to dodge. The Mountain Giant King trembled in anger and began to attack recklessly. Unfortunately, such actions could not affect Aisha at all. Instead, it was Lorne, the summoner, who felt a headache from such a large-scale attack. Fortunately, he had the Ghost Deity Necklace and the Angel's Wings, 2 divine items with the acceleration effect, which allowed him to move safely around the boss. As for Aisha, she focused on attacking the boss. This time, it took a long time. It took a full 5 minutes before the boss' health points were finally depleted in the intense battle. When the mountain giant king still had 5% health left, Lorne had tried to subdue the boss, but at the last moment, he chose to give up. It was not because of anything else, but because in his personal defense mission, there were instructions to kill 2 bosses and harvest their heads. This made Lorne hesitate for a moment, and in the end, he decided to give up this opportunity. As for why he said he wanted to recruit the other party, it was only a scheme against the monster. Unfortunately, the mountain giant king did not fall for it, causing him to waste so much time. No. No. I'm a descendant of the ancient gods. How can I die at the hands of a weak human? At the last moment of its life, the mountain giant king let out a sad cry, but Aisha's expression was cold. Any target who stood against its master was an enemy. Her sharp blade reaped the life of the boss without hesitation. Ding! Congratulations to your pet, Aisha, for successfully killing the boss, the mountain giant king. Congratulations on obtaining the mission tool, head of the mountain giant king. Congratulations on obtaining the material, stone core of the mountain giant king. Congratulations on obtaining the material, rock fragment of the mountain giant king. Congratulations on obtaining the material, totem fragment of the mountain giant king. Congratulations on obtaining the material, rune fragment of the mountain giant king. As a rock life form, the mountain giant king would occasionally produce special runes. Like the stone giant totem fragment he had obtained at the bottom of the Lake of Death, they should be very precious magic materials. Lorne took away all the loot. Leader, do you have any equipment that suits me? I want to change my equipment. Super Rich immediately sent a private message. On the other side, Twinkle Rose shouted, Brother Tyrant, seeing that I'm working so hard to help you defend the city, can you sell some equipment to the ladies of the Silver Snow Guild? Although the Mountain Giant King was a level 45 super high-grade boss, there was a sea of equipment under the city wall. There were definitely some equipment that were more suitable for the current players. This was a key resource to stand out in the guild competition. Alright, let me see. There were only these 2 friends in Lorne's friend list, and they were important partners. Since they needed it, he would give them some. After all, these equipment were not important to him. Chapter 287, Octopus Sea Demon Leader. Rock Shield. Grade, Platinum. Attributes. Additional effect, increases the user's defense by 25%. Additional effect, increases the user's defense by 100 points. Special effect, Rock Shield, resists 10% of all attack damage. There is a chance of reflecting the attack. Introduction, an equipment forged from the rocks on the Mountain Giant King. Other than its powerful resistance, it is also the greatest glory of a knight. The attributes of a level 30 shield were really good. There were also 2 additional effects and 1 special effect. To the shield warrior players, this was definitely an equipment that was worth fighting for. Especially with a 25% increase in defense, this effect could allow a top shield warrior to completely pull away from others. They could even resist the boss alone. To the strategy team, it was definitely the most powerful help. When they saw the attributes of this equipment, Twinkle Rose and Super Rich were very tempted. After such a long gaming experience, even people with a low understanding of the game would definitely understand the value of this equipment at this moment. Therefore, Super Rich directly shouted his price, Leader, I want this equipment for 15 million alliance dollars. The price of platinum equipment on the market was about 5 million. Of course, although there was a price set, there was no transaction known. Perhaps this was the treatment of rare equipment. This time, Super Rich directly offered 15 million. This price made Twinkle Rose's scalp tingle. Indeed, she could not compete with such a guy who treated money as paper. Damn bootlicker! Twinkle Rose pouted but did not make a bid. Of course, Lorne was happy. An equipment was sold for 15 million. Was there anything more exciting than this? However, this price was not high. According to his estimation, if he auctioned these high-grade equipment, there was a chance to bid above 20 million. After all, the guilds were fighting for the game's progress. High-level weapons were the strategic resource that they wanted the most. Of course, this price was not bad. After all, the high price of the auction was very difficult to predict. Who knew where the final price of such an item worth tens of millions would stop? Lorne could not be bothered to think about it. After all, tens of millions was only a small amount. Ever since he opened the teleportation array of the cold desolate Dragon City, he was not too interested in such a small business. Money came too easily, and the flow of funds was astonishing. A mere tens of millions was not worth paying attention to. Take it. After all, you're a business representative of the cold desolate Dragon City. It's too embarrassing to wear such a pile of junk. Lorne threw the equipment to the other party and gave him a pair of platinum bracers as well. This equipment was considered a gift to him. The business of the cold desolate Dragon City was the most profitable thing. He had given this equipment to the other party in hopes that he could quickly build up the business circle of the cold desolate Dragon City. This was the confidence to compete for resources with Iron Skull City and Seaside City. Leader, Super Rich was stunned. From the moment he decided to follow this young leader until now, he had directly received a reward. It had only been a short month, and the reward this time was extraordinary. Platinum equipment was only a small portion. To him, this platinum equipment that had been given to him was more of a recognition. It was also the leader's recognition of him. With the equipment in hand, Super Rich did not hesitate. In his heart, he was even more certain that he had to follow in the footsteps of the leader. With the cold desolate Dragon City as the foundation, he would quickly build it into a World Trade Center. Take these 2 pieces of equipment for your Silver Snow Guild. I'll charge you 10 million each. Consider it a thank you for helping to defend the city. Lorne placed the remaining 2 platinum items in the team chat. Twinkle Rose, who was killing monsters on the city wall, nearly spat out blood. This guy was too different. Why did he give a platinum equipment to that bootlicker for free? Was she not beautiful enough? Or was that old man too good at bootlicking? Twinkle Rose whined. After paying 20 million, she put the 2 platinum items away and immediately smiled. These 2 pieces of equipment were actually weapons. It was simply too awesome. Among the equipment in Divine Realm, the weapon had the strongest attack attributes and was also the equipment that made the greatest difference between players. With these 2 platinum weapons, the strength of the top players in the guild could increase by another level. Even compared to those super large guilds with more than 100,000, the combat strength of the top guilds was not much inferior. In this case, the speed at which they hunted the boss would not be slower than the other party. At the same time, they would have the potential to compete with other large guilds. Thinking of this, Twinkle Rose was very happy. After seeing that Tyrant had disappeared from this city wall, she immediately reacted and shouted in the guild chat group, "Everyone, immediately head to the northeast city wall. Don't waste the time to earn experience." The next moment, a large group of players retreated from the northwest city wall and rushed towards the northeast city wall. At this moment, a group of NPCs from the cold desolate Dragon City arrived outside the city wall. They began to clean up the loot that the players had dropped. This was because there were more than 1 million monsters attacking this time. After killing all of them, tens of thousands of loot were naturally dropped. The bronze coins even formed an ocean under the city wall. However, perhaps because of the event, the EXP and loot dropped by the monsters this time were much lower. The million monsters only dropped less than 50,000 loot, and the bronze coins were uncountable. Lorne did not pay attention to the quality of the loot, but handed it all to Super Rich. Now that he was taking on the business arrangement mission in the city, these loot could largely attract players to descend upon the cold desolate dragon city, but as for how effective it would be, it all depended on how he operated. As for Lorne himself, there was still a boss waiting for him. This sea demon leader that had walked out of the Lake of Death should be about the same strength as the Mountain Giant King. It was probably a level 45 silver boss. He hoped that it could summon bosses like the Mountain Giant. Only then could more attribute fruits drop. With that in mind, he quickly arrived near the northeastern city wall at high speed. However, as soon as he arrived, he saw that the players in the city were in a mess. Unlike the enemies in the northwest, the monsters attacking here were all water monsters in the lake. Many of them had suction cups, like octopuses. These suction cups could help them climb the city wall and fight the defense army on the city wall in close combat. Because of this, monsters were smashing everywhere in the nearby city. Fortunately, there were not many people, and these monsters were not very powerful. After being surrounded by a group of players, they could not cause trouble for too long. Chapter 288, Battle. I didn't expect such a city to be hidden near the Lake of Death. Is it a scheme of Iron Skull City? In the distant mountain range outside the city, a huge octopus sea demon entrenched itself on a short mountain. It stared at the cold desolate dragon city and began to mutter to itself. The old turtle beside him said, "It must be the work of cold desolate dragon city." Although the city lord of this city is an adventurer, the adventurers at this stage are only a group of weaklings who are not even in the earth realm. They don't have the ability to build such a huge building. Moreover, there seems to be a large number of Iron Skull City's city guards stationed in this city. Just this point alone can confirm the true ownership of this city. Humph, the old thing from Iron Skull City really does not give up on the Lake of Death. The octopus sea demon leader snorted and continued, "Since they dare to extend their arms to the Lake of Death, we'll cut them off completely. It just so happens that we have the Mountain Giant King's invitation this time. We have a good reason for doing so. From today onwards, this city will no longer exist." The monsters were extremely arrogant. In their eyes, the defense of this city was simply unable to withstand a single blow. It did not even have the most basic defense cannons and did not have any decent combat strength. Foolish humans thought these high walls could withstand an attack. It was ridiculous. These towering walls were useless against the octopus sea demons. Their suction cups could directly climb up. After the defense in the city was sufficiently disrupted, the sea demon army could directly rush into the city and completely clean up the entire city. "Leader, why don't we just rush into this city and kill all the humans inside?" a sea demon asked in confusion. "There's no hurry. The city guards in this city are still very powerful. Let the Mountain Giant King and the others attack. We'll wait for them to destroy most of the city's defense before we attack and completely destroy this city at the minimum price." The octopus sea demon leader smiled cruelly and shouted to its lackey, "Go to the northwest city wall and see how the Mountain Giant King and the others are doing. Those fellows are huge and powerful. They might be about to break through the city wall. We can't let these brainless rocks snatch the fruits of our victory. I still have to use this contribution to ask the commander for a reward." "Yes." A sea demon received the order. But at that moment, an eel monster ran up and shouted in panic, "Leader, bad news. The Mountain Giant King has been killed." "What?" The surrounding monsters were shocked. The octopus sea demon leader's expression changed. It grabbed the eel monster and said in a deep voice, "Damn you, what nonsense are you talking about?" "No, I didn't." The eel monster twisted its body and said in a panic, "Leader, I'm telling the truth. The Mountain Giant King is dead. The monster army in the northwest has been wiped out." Swish! As soon as it finished speaking, it was swallowed by the octopus sea demon leader. As the leader of the octopus sea demons, it was confident in destroying this city. How could those adventurers who were not even at the Earth realm kill the powerful Mountain Giant King? They must have used a special method. Or perhaps, it was a secret weapon hidden in Iron Skull City. But that did not matter. This thing was definitely not able to deal with the sea demon army. Give the order. All sea demons rush into the city and kill all humans. The Octopus sea demon leader did not think that such a thing could resist the Octopus army. Unless they had more than 1,000,000 powerful warriors, even if they had powerful city defense cannons, it was impossible to block such a large-scale attack. After receiving the order, the monsters under the northeastern city wall went crazy. These sea demons that had walked out of the Lake of Death rushed up at this moment. They were all climbing the city wall of the cold, desolate Dragon City. Due to the interference of the surrounding monsters, the players were killing the monsters that ran in. The defense on the city wall was not enough, so the sea demon army below could naturally surge up the city wall. The dark monsters completely dyed the city wall black. Countless monsters attached themselves to the wall and began to rush towards the interior of the city wall. The players guarding the city panicked. In fact, the current players could not defeat a level 40 sea demon. In addition, there were few players guarding the city, so as soon as the sea demons attacked, the entire city wall was occupied by monsters. But at that moment, a slender figure entered the battlefield. -114,000, critical. Aisha only needed one attack to kill a sea demon. Moreover, after killing the monster, her teleportation skill would immediately be refreshed, making her a killing machine. With an infinite number of flashes, together with an attack that was guaranteed to deal critical damage, this kind of monster was simply the most terrifying enemy against an army. However, there were too many monsters here. Aisha could not clear all the monsters alone. Lorne had no intention of doing so. This time, the order he gave Aisha was to kill the higher-grade monsters on the city wall, and the remaining ordinary monsters were left to the players guarding the city. Because the battle in the northwest had ended, more than 100,000 players had already arrived and began to clean up the monsters that had intruded into the city. There were only about 1,000,000 monsters. Against the wall, most of the monsters were still blocked outside, and this was the players' chance. There were a total of more than 200,000 players here and the help of the tens of thousands of city guards. The sea monsters that had entered after much difficulty were almost blocked. The high-level monsters were quickly wiped out by Aisha. Soon, the situation in the city gradually stabilized. Lorne arrived on the city wall and looked into the distance. The huge octopus sea demon leader was entrenched on the hill. After knowing the situation of the mountain giant king, it commanded the army to attack crazily. However, this probably dead big boss hid far away and only quietly watched the battle ahead, as if it had no intention of joining the battle. "Since you're not coming, I'll go over. Aisha, come with me." Lorne jumped off the wall with Aisha. Since ancient times, battles had always been like this. To defeat the enemy, one had to capture the leader first. If the other party's leader was killed, the combat strength of the other party's army would definitely be greatly affected. After killing this octopus sea demon leader, the entire defense battle would quickly end. Chapter 289, Island Turtle. Octopus Sea Demon Leader. Grade, Silver Boss. Level, 45. HP, 1.2 million/1.2 million. Attack, 5500 to 7000. Defense, 3000. Skill, Tentacle Rebirth, Crazy Beating, Flesh Entanglement, Powerful Absorption. Introduction: a monster living in the Lake of Death. It has a powerful recovery ability and can skillfully control every tentacle while dealing damage to the target. Only level 45? When Lorne arrived near it, he realized that the Octopus Sea Demon Leader was even weaker than the Mountain Giant King. They were both silver bosses, but this Octopus Sea Demon Leader only had 1.2 million health points. It was a total of 600,000 health points less than the Mountain Giant King. The difference in defense was huge. The defense difference between the two was 2,500 points. This was only the elementary data. If the Mountain Giant King's skills and talents were taken into account, the difference between the two would be several times greater. When he had fought the Mountain Giant King, Lorne had discovered that its defense had exceeded 10,000 points, 4 times that of the Octopus Sea Demon leader. Of course, if one's defense was powerful, their attack power would be relatively weak. The Mountain Giant King's attack only had 5,500 points, but the upper limit of this boss attack was astonishing 7,000 points. To the current players, it was a height that could not be reached. Unfortunately, this was all it could do. 7,000 attack points was no threat to Aisha, who had 150,000 health points. Instead, Aisha's attack limit, which was as high as 44,000, posed a threat to the Octopus Sea Demon leader's death. However, Lorne was not in a hurry to attack. He was waiting for the other party to summon a boss-level underling. An opportunity to earn free attribute points was not common in the Divine Realm. 5 minutes later, the Sea Demon leader emitted a low-frequency sound wave. A strange sound attracted everyone's attention. The surrounding small hills actually trembled. When he looked carefully, he realized that they were turtle demons. They had been lying on the ground and disguised as small hills. Now that they had received the order, they actually moved out and charged towards the cold, desolate Dragon City. The shell of these giant turtles was dozens of meters tall and was not smaller than the mountain giant. If they rushed to the bottom of the city wall, the other monsters could use its body to rush up the city wall. This was much faster than climbing. Unfortunately, Lorne had no intention of letting them go. Aisha, kill them all. Yes. Without any hesitation, Aisha rushed over with a sharp blade. Cooperative strike. Phantom combo plus. The short staff in Lorne's hand glowed, giving Aisha greater attack attributes. In the next second, the dagger in her hand also emitted a cold light. Countless saber lights covered the turtle and struck its thigh crazily. Clang! 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 Minus 12,101. Minus 12,101. Minus 12,101. Minus 12,101. Minus 12,101. Minus 12,101. The sharp blades collided with the turtle's shell, producing a metallic sound. It could be seen that the defense attributes of these monsters were also ridiculously high, not inferior to that of the mountain giant. When the carapace on its back glowed, its defense was higher. Unfortunately, no matter how high the defense was, it could not block Aisha's attack. With the upper limit of 44,000 attack points, combined with the 6,600 attack points given by Lorne, the final damage was as high as 60,000. Unfortunately, the combo attack could not trigger the critical hit effect. Otherwise, just this strike would have cost a huge turtle more than half its health. Boom! In less than half a minute, a huge turtle that was moving suddenly lost its life and fell into the mountain range. Under Aisha's powerful damage output, they would lose tens of thousands or even tens of thousands of health points per second. It was impossible for them to last with just less than 1,000,000 health points. Gosh, Tyrant is showing his might again. Oh my god, is this really a player who is playing the game with us? Are those big sea turtles all weak? A weak monster can be dozens of meters tall? Don't joke, brother. It must be because God Tyrant's damage output is too high. These bosses can't hold on. Killing a boss is as simple as drinking water. God Tyrant is indeed our role model. The players on the city wall looked over. They, who claimed to be top players, were currently being restrained by a group of monsters. On the other hand, the solo player, Tyrant, had already gone out alone and began to solo the boss group. He was simply not playing the same game. There's indeed good stuff. Lorne went to the spot where the boss had fallen and put away the loot. In addition to a pile of silver equipment, he picked up 13 attribute fruits. This was a real attribute point, something that players wanted the most. However, it was too early to be happy. Many giant turtles had already crossed the area and rushed towards the city wall. Without hesitation, Lorne led Aisha towards the monster. -52,000, critical. -5,911. -5,909. -5,939. -5,917. When she dealt the critical hit, the huge turtle's health instantly fell by a large amount. Even without a critical hit, under Aisha's high attack frequency, she could still deal very high damage. The huge turtle did not last long before it fell to Aisha's critical hit. With a loud bang, the boss fell. The harvest this time was still not low. 15 attribute fruits were simply fascinating. Lorne put away the loot and continued killing the other monsters. In this crazy slaughter, these giant turtles fell to the ground. None of them approached cold desolate Dragon City. Seeing that most of its minions were dead, the Octopus Sea Demon leader could not help but attack. Its tentacles on the hill moved, and its entire body was like a house with legs. In terms of damage output, it was much stronger than the Mountain Giant King. Especially with the help of the tentacles, its combat ability far exceeded the clumsy Mountain Giant King. It was also because of this that it was so confident that it charged directly at Lorne. Boom! The tentacles swept up the rocks along the way with an astonishing momentum. Before the two sides could approach, the Octopus Sea Demon leader waved its tentacles and threw the huge rock over. The terrifying force made the rocks fall like meteors. Of course, Aisha was not afraid. At this moment, she was darting back and forth in the forest with agile footsteps, directly facing the boss. Aisha, who had the upper limit of 44,000 attacks, did not care about any monster that was not 20 levels above her, even if it was dozens of meters tall and had a hideous appearance. Chapter 290, Killing the Octopus Sea Demon Leader. -69,000, critical. -4,723. -69,100, critical. -6,915. -6,915. -6,915. Aisha moved quickly between the tentacles of the Octopus Sea Demon leader, the sharp blades in her hands slicing through its body at high speed, dealing high damage. It could be seen that the damage was much higher than when it fought the Mountain Giant King. However, the Octopus Sea Demon leader had a very special ability. That was a healing effect. Its extremely resilient body that possessed high recovery gave it the ability to convert damage into life. The conversion ratio was about 10%. This effect was not strong. However, because it was calculated according to the damage data when it was not reduced, the final recovery value was very high, almost offsetting 50% of the damage. This made the battle a little more anxious. However, Aisha was not in a hurry. She calmly moved beside the Octopus Sea Demon leader. The dagger in her hand swept across the water like a dragonfly. It was difficult to even see her movements. However, such a light movement had an extraordinary effect. Especially when it came to critical hits. When Aisha dealt a critical hit, the Octopus Sea Demon leader was like a piece of paper without defense. She dealt terrifying damage with a light poke. Even if it had the power to absorb damage, it was useless against such a terrifying critical hit. The Octopus Sea Demon leader let out a terrifying roar in pain. More than a dozen tentacles smashed down. Due to its size, its tentacles were huge and long. When the tentacle struck, Aisha was directly enveloped by the shadow. The terrifying force made one's heart palpitate. Unfortunately, before the tentacle could smash down, Aisha had already arrived at a safe area with her high movement speed. She could even easily avoid the rocks and shattered wood. Pew! 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 Seizing the opportunity, Aisha waved her dagger and dealt high damage again. Especially when the critical hit effect occurred, she even slashed open the end of the Octopus Sea Demon leader's tentacles. This was a sign of strength. When the attacker was abnormally powerful, the monster's body would shatter. This effect was rarely seen. After all, the setting requirement was very high. The current players were not powerful enough to meet this requirement. But now, this scene appeared. Aisha's damage output did this impossible thing. The Octopus Sea Demon leader roared. Being severed by a human brat who had not even reached the Earth realm was simply a great humiliation. If possible, it would tear the enemy into pieces. Unfortunately, it could not. This elf was too agile. Even against the overwhelming attacks, she did not panic at all. She even attacked with ease. This was too terrifying. Against such an opponent, there was no chance of survival. The Octopus Sea Demon leader had already sensed the danger, but in its anger, it was impossible for it to completely destroy the enemy and his ridiculous city today. Die, you detestable brat! The Octopus Sea Demon leader roared as its body emitted a grey light. This was a sign that it was about to use its skill. Noticing this, Aisha focused her mind. Yet, she did not choose to stay away. Only close combat could ensure that she was not so passive when facing the tentacles. After all, the attack range was dozens of meters long. Once she pulled away, the other party would attack fearlessly. That would only make her more passive. Boom! The Octopus Sea Demon leader raised its tentacles, and an incomparably huge energy tentacle appeared. Its range was larger and stronger now. Any player other than Lorne would immediately die if they were attacked like this. Aisha was constantly paying attention to the arrival of the attack. When the energy struck, she immediately used the Phantom Blink skill and instantly moved 20 yards. At this distance, she could naturally easily avoid the attacks. But the problem quickly arose. The Octopus Sea Demon leader's attack was multi-stage. It controlled its tentacles to attack Aisha in succession. A huge tentacle more than 100 meters long and 15 meters wide smashed down. Aisha was sent flying by the terrifying force, and her health decreased by 14,000 points. 5-digit damage appeared above Aisha. This was the first time she had suffered such a heavy attack, and also the first time she had lost so much health. However, that was all it could do. This was the strongest skill of the Octopus Sea Demon leader. A huge tentacle that was 100 meters long and 15 meters wide could instantly destroy a well-trained 1,000-man army. However, this elf had only lost a tenth of her health points. What was going on? The Octopus Sea Demon leader could not understand. To be honest, it had never encountered such a strange opponent. It was clearly a low-level elf, but the power it unleashed was actually so powerful. This was impossible. The Octopus Sea Demon leader could not understand what it was seeing, but Aisha did not give it a chance to think. While the boss raised its tentacles, she used the chance to rush towards its head. This huge tentacle was like a firm principle. As long as one rushed to its highest point, they would be close to the octopus leader's head. That was its greatest weakness. As long as one targeted this weakness, the entire battle would end as soon as possible. It was precisely because Aisha had discovered this that she used the most dangerous method and approached the Octopus Sea Demon leader's head as quickly as possible. At the back of the other party's head, the sharp blade in Aisha's hand instantly erupted with astonishing power. A terrifying hexagram blossomed, and then like a meat grinder, she attacked the other party crazily. -9,727. -93,000, critical. -99,100, critical. -9,901. -9,955. After hitting the weak point, the damage increased by 50 to 100%. Especially when there was a critical hit, the boss health instantly decreased by a large amount. Even if it had the ability to recover, it could not resist the terrifying damage. The Octopus Sea Demon leader immediately twisted its body crazily, trying to kill Aisha. But that was useless. Aisha was far faster than it had imagined. Other than creating difficulties, these huge tentacles could not directly harm Aisha. Just like that, the battle quickly came to an end. In just 5 minutes, the boss could not hold on anymore and collapsed.